my parents made their sacrifice to leave their home country of Peru to come here. And the sacrifice that they did that I saw when I was a kid, it will be a disservice if I didn't become the best version of myself, because that is what they taught me.
You pay taxes.
Yes.
So they document your income.
Yes.
They document what you owe them.
Yes.
And you pay them.
Yes.
But when it comes to citizenship, you can't get documentation around your citizenship.
I provide a lot to this country. I have employees. I helped tons of people, whether teaching them in investing. I've helped a few people become millionaires too and everything. But there's always that challenge of like, hey, I am not documented. I still have some obstacles, but I feel like I've been able to still achieve the American dream without being American.
Yeah.
And that is a privilege, and that is what's the beauty in this country. Yes, there are challenges, but you just have to play with those challenges.
You've dealt with the odds stacked against you pretty much your whole life. I mean, whether it was struggling with public speaking, or whether it was struggling with not having citizenship and having to ride your bike and having to self-employ yourself, like you've always had your back against the wall and it didn't matter. And I recognized, I always assumed, but I recognized when I met your parents that it came from that. How are you going to give that gift to your kids?
Yeah, I would say, number one, it's leading by example. And of course, growing up is going to be a lot different. Them growing up, how I grew up, right? And those types of obstacles. I wouldn't want those types of obstacles that happen to them, but I do want to create that resilience.
Yeah.
And
so how do you create it without the obstacles?
That is definitely the challenge, right? And that is one of the things that I heard. It was either Daniel De Real or Aaron West who shared, you have to raise your kids in a way to carry the burden of your wealth, right? And it's like that burden. Burden is a complete different word than the blessings of your wealth, right? It's like the burden of your wealth. And I feel like a lot of it is going to come with giving them obstacles or challenges to make them figure it out, to make them figure out stuff. I feel like if you hand them everything, it creates a level of spoil or like me, or like, hey, this is what I expect. And if I don't have it in the next 5 minutes, or if I want something from Amazon and I'm going to get it, and if I don't get it, I'm going to cry, tantrum, whatever it's called. I would say that giving them lessons of teaching them patience, teaching them hard work, and that's going to come by setting obstacles for them, right? I know that, for example, one of my best friends, Pascal, I know that, for example, his parents, they bought him a new car, right, when we were in 10th grade, but they wouldn't pay for his cell phone, his insurance, or his gas, or anything in maintenance of the car. So yes, he has the new car, but if he didn't figure out a way to make extra money to be able to even drive the car, then
there's no car.
Exactly, right? So I saw to the point that when we were in high school, we wanted to buy computers, and it wasn't like, I knew that I couldn't just tell my parents, hey, can you buy me a computer? Because we didn't have money to do that, to buy an Apple in 10th grade. And Pascal, his parents were like, no, we're not going to buy you that. So we decided to sell chocolates in high school to all of the students that we could. And until we got caught a couple of weeks, like a month later, and we had to stop, but we made some money so that later we could buy that computer, right? So even though, for example, Pascal grew up in a different way that I did, he lived in a house with an elevator and all this other stuff, his parents in a way showed him the challenges. And me growing up in a complete different way, we were both seeing those challenges. So that's one thing that moving forward, I'm definitely going to do something like that with my kids, because it's something that teaches you for the long term rather than just here for the next year, but it gives you stuff for years to come.
Well, and you've been backed into a corner I mean, arguably your entire life, but nothing has really come easy for you, right? Like you're a dreamer. You've had the odds stacked against you. Presidential changes have changed your landscape and your dynamic. What's going on here? You always pay taxes, but nobody seems to appreciate or recognize that. Why do you keep pushing forward? Most people would have quit. Most people would give up. Why do you keep going?
Yeah. I feel we're in a position that I've been super blessed to be one of the, I would say, one of the successful dreamers in the US, because I'm undocumented. I don't have papers or anything. But I feel like I keep going because, number one, my parents made their sacrifice to leave their home country of Peru to come here. And the sacrifice that they did that I saw when I was a kid, it will be a disservice if I didn't become the best version of myself, because that is what they taught me, right? And if I just limit myself to a regular life, that is nothing wrong, but I feel like pushing for my potential is one of those things that no matter what obstacles I have to see what my potential is. And fortunately, too, being able to be connected with the Gobundance guys at such a young age, they showed me the path. Yes, I've had to work harder than other people. Yes, different challenges, and when there's new administrations in the US, it's always that challenge too. But it's something where I know that no matter what the obstacle is, I'll figure out a way. And because I know what my goals are and what I want to achieve, it's like, I'm going to make it happen. Whoever the president is, I mean, I was invited to the White House in 2023.
You declined the invitation.
No, I went there and everything. I was invited to the White House. Was it last year? In 2023. Yeah, 2023. And it was an amazing experience, right? To be there. And then I don't know if I would be invited now. That doesn't really matter. But the thing is, the opportunity that was there given to me, it's like there is an opportunity, and I feel like by the way that I've been able to share my story on social media, on Instagram, whatever, I've also been an example to other immigrants, to other DACA recipients, other dreamers that may let their circumstances limit them. But my goal is to show them that it is possible. Because if I can do it, they can do it. And if Americans are thinking like, oh my gosh, like my life is hard, I'm like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. You just need to take enough action and also surround yourself with like-minded people that are willing to push you to make it happen, whatever your goals are.
Right.
But the U.S. is a land of opportunity. No matter what background, no matter what your situation is, yes, there are times that you have to get creative. And I feel like my immigration situation of me being undocumented has taught me a lot of resilience and creativity to be able to have this skill that when somebody else comes to me with an obstacle or a challenge, I can think of different ways to solve it and help them out.
So what's wild to me is you use this word undocumented. You pay taxes.
Yes.
So they document your income.
Yes.
They document what you owe them.
Yes.
And you pay them.
Yes.
But when it comes to citizenship, you can't get documentation around your citizenship.
Exactly. There is no that has been my challenge. And that's why it's always been a challenge of being, hey, I provide a lot to this country. I have employees. I helped tons of people, whether teaching them in investing. I've helped a few people become millionaires too and everything. But there's always that challenge of like, hey, I am not documented. I still have some obstacles, but I feel like I've been able to still achieve the American dream without being American.
Yeah.
And that is a privilege, and that is what's the beauty in this country. Yes, there are challenges, but you just have to play with those challenges.
The way you get to the life you desire is by getting in rooms you don't think you deserve to be into. And this is an opportunity for you to get into a room that most oftentimes in the year you will not have the ability to get into. The Austin Entrepreneurial Summit powered by Gobundance is the only time we open the doors of Gobundance to the public. This event is packed with some powerful speakers and incredible people from the Gobundance community that will pour into you on your journey of success and help you achieve the life you desire. Service is the Trojan horse to knowledge, and if you want the opportunity to take your life to the next level, do yourself a service and sign up for this event. See you in Austin in May. You've done it all. You've built the business. You've made the money. You conquered the grind. You're the lone wolf, and yeah, that got you here. But let's be real, it won't take you to the next level. The truth? Most successful people don't hunt alone. They join a tribe, a network of elite entrepreneurs, investors, or leaders who challenge them, push them, and hold them accountable to their biggest goals. Gobundance is that tribe. Extreme accountability, real wealth building, life-changing adventure, and a brotherhood who refuses to let each other play small. So here's the challenge. Stay the lone wolf or run with the pack. The right tribe changes everything. Find a link in the description. Apply today. This episode is brought to you by Loletta Birnbaum, LLC, doing business justice. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate investor, or a combination of each, you know how critical it is to have trusted legal advisors on your team. Loletta Birnbaum has built a stellar reputation providing exceptional legal services that make a difference. As a national business law firm, Loletta Birnbaum provides a wide variety of legal services, including general corporate, contract negotiations, mergers and acquisitions, succession planning, intellectual property, commercial litigation, shareholder disputes, real estate, and employment. Whether you're navigating a complex business deal, resolving disputes, or protecting your brand, their team delivers practical, results-driven legal solutions tailored to your goals. For inquiries, Gobundance members should email Loletta Birnbaum at gobundance@loletta.com. That's LAULETTA.com. You can also visit their website at www.lauletta.com to learn more about how they can do your business justice. This episode is brought to you by Apex Functional Health, the team behind age-defying health at Gobundance. If you're a high-achieving entrepreneur, investor, or leader, you know that your health is your greatest asset. But the truth is, traditional medicine isn't built for people like you. It treats symptoms, ignores root causes, and keeps you stuck in cycles of fatigue, stress, and subpar performance. That's where Apex comes in. They do not do Band-Aids. They engineer elite health transformations for men, women, and children looking to optimize their health and be proactive instead of reactive. Apex uses root cause functional medicine, advanced lab testing, and cutting-edge biohacking tools to help you optimize energy, eliminate the root cause holding you back, and reverse early signs of aging so you can live, feel, and perform at your best. Apex helps you take control of your health so you can lead with power, not burnout. Visit apexfunctionalhealth.com to schedule your free strategy call and see what's possible when your body finally works for you, not against you. What's slowing your business down? Is it endless emails, scheduling headaches, repetitive tasks that steal your time? My Outdesk has your solution. Their experienced global virtual assistants handle the busy work so you can focus on strategy, growth, and whatever matters to you most. From administrative support to marketing and customer service, they've got you covered at a fraction of the cost of hiring in-house. Scale smarter, save bigger, get the support you need today at My Outdesk. I wouldn't say without being American. Like, you are American. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you can't get a piece of paper makes me sick. Mm-hmm. Because I've seen who you are as a human. Your parents came here. You were young. 5? What was it?
I was 9.
You were 9. So you were 9. It wasn't like you made this conscious choice of, I'm going to go to this place, understanding that, you know, like, your parents made this choice. Mm-hmm. You came here. You've gone to college. You've done everything you're supposed to do as an American. You've paid your taxes. You've provided service for others. You've helped those in need. You've given back to the community. You've bought goods. You've hired employees. Like, everything an American is to do by definition, which is to live the best possible life they can live. You've done. Mm-hmm. Why can't you get documents? I don't get it.
So there is no way for me to get, like, for the dreamers, let's say, or for the immigrants that are coming in, that have been here for years, right, let's say, especially dreamers like me, there is no way for them to get in line because in order for us to receive a visa, we have to get it from our home country.
Mm-hmm.
And if we leave without some kind of parole, we cannot come back for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the reasons of why I've been pushing, like going to Congress a few times to speak and share my story and everything, is for Congress to come up with a solution long term. Because what Obama did in 2012 with the DACA program, it was just a band-aid.
Yeah.
Right. And last year I was invited to the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, like the Senate Judiciary Committee, with my brother. And well, I could take a guest, and I took my brother. It was an incredible experience to be there. I was invited to, I was one of the people that they wanted to be part of the judiciary, like of the court, doing the arguments. But at last minute, I got pulled out. But they told me that they will share a little bit of my story before the Judiciary Committee would start. So that, for me, from that perspective, that was like in the history books type of things. But here's the thing. And this is where, when my brother told me, and I knew it, is that right now, the way that politics are on the immigration side, the left and the right are not speaking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it live.
Mm-hmm.
And when my brother saw it, my brother told me, hey, they're arguing here for the dreamers, yet like the judiciary, the whole court was about the dreamers, but because they're speaking different language and the border and doing different stuff regarding the border, they're speaking different languages,
mm-hmm.
right? So they're never going to find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And once my brother told me that, I was like, dude, that is right. And it's not until both parties can decide, hey, let's talk about the same subject, then we'll be able to figure out a way for a long-term solution. Now that we have a new president, we will see what they do. But again, it's one of those things, like, to give you an example, they were saying about, so let's say the Democrats were talking about, hey, we need to find a way for dreamers to get citizenship throughout the years. They're an asset to society, blah, blah. Then you had the Republicans, and again, this is just an example. They're saying, hey, okay, dreamers, no, we need to fix the border. And he's like, yes, but we're here to talk about the dreamers. It's like, we need to fix the border because of this.
Right.
And it's a legitimate reason,
right?
Legitimate, of course, but you cannot go go on a court to figure out a solution, and you're speaking on fixing two different things, right, when the goal is one thing and they're completely opposite. So again, to summarize this part, is it's not going to be until Congress, both parties, have the end goal of what they're going to do, till there will be a solution for dreamers of people like me, to be able to find a pathway for citizenship. Because right now there is no pathway for citizenship. And that's one of the reasons why I go to Congress to share my story in a way that hopefully at some point both parties will speak the same language.
Do you think it'll get resolved?
I don't know, because both parties use us as like playing chess, right? And so one party says, yes, let's help them. But when it's time to help them, nothing happens. And then the other party is like, hey, we want to help them, but first we have to fix this other thing. And they're not willing to compromise with the other party. So again, it has to be something that they don't care who wins. They just have to decide what the end goal is. And unfortunately, in politics, some party needs to feel like they won so that they can take the credit. And that's been the issue.
So let's say you get the chance to call Trump. Trump calls you, calls Diego Corzo. What would you tell him?
I would tell him that there are over 600,000 dreamers, DACA recipients, There are over 600,000 DACA recipients who right now are in limbo. That right now it is a disservice to the U.S. having us gone to college, graduated high school, gone to college, have jobs, teachers, nurses, everything. And we cannot fulfill our potential because there is a lot of fear of what can happen. We would make America great, using his words, right? Make America great again, if he gives us the necessary things so that we can become citizens. Because then once that happens, that fear is not in the forefront. Now it's gone. Now we can continue helping and giving back to this country that has provided so many things for us. So I would say, if he's able to look forward and seeing what the potential can be, because I know that there's dreamers that want to buy houses but because we're in limbo, they don't buy houses, which means like the US runs on the velocity of money, like the US economy. At the end of the day, it's the velocity of money. So if we can make more people feel comfortable living here that are already been, I've been here for 25 years, right? It's like, give me that opportunity so that the fear is not there anymore for me and for the 600,000 dreamers, and you'll see how much more we can contribute. Because as you mentioned, you can tell that I am American from all of those other characteristics or other traits, but we're still not being treated like that, even though hypothetically, and like you said, like I would consider myself an American, just don't have the papers to prove it. But once we do that, I feel like the country will continue to improve so much more.
And what do you think the biggest thing holding them up is? Or politics up in general, besides the talking past each other? Like, what's the big holdup?
The big holdup is, I feel that they want to do some things, but the other party still wants to have a win. So it makes it a little bit challenging, where they both want to win, yet they're not doing what it takes.
What's really fascinating to me is you experience that every day in real estate, right? You buy and sell real estate, you recruit real estate agents, you're around real estate transactions constantly. There's two sides. Now they're both working towards the common goal of like, how do we buy this asset? Two political parties both working towards the common goal of how do we make America the best possible country to live? How do you navigate these negotiations when you're in a real estate transaction or you're recruiting an agent, right? Because you have what your win is, they have what their win is, and ultimately both are going to have to give and both are going to have to take a little bit.
Yeah.
So how have you used this concept in your life to accomplish the things you desire, whether it be through a real estate transaction, the recruiting of an agent, or whatever else you're navigating?
Yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, it comes to having the emotional intelligence to be able to understand what the other party is wanting, like what the other party, and by the party, let's call it a real estate transaction, is like they have their goals and we have our goals. So the best thing is going to be to create a win-win. But because it has to be a win-win, because if not, there's not going to be a solution. The problem right now is that no matter what, on the politics side, somebody has to win. Right? And that is what causes that polarity. And that is what causes those arguments of like, hey, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. So, but when both parties say, hey, let's create a win-win, what works for you? How can I best help you? I feel like that is the solution. And on the real estate side, as a realtor, I feel like both let's call it like the buyer's agent, the listing agent, right? They're there to figure out a win-win for both of their clients. And that's one of the things that I do. It may not be what maybe my client was expecting from the beginning, but each party has to give a little to be able to find a solution and to move forward. So with that said, there has to be a way of portraying the information to make sure that we know what the end goal is for both parties. End goal meaning, like, if I'm representing a seller, right, and they're saying, hey, I want to sell my house. I want to sell it for X amount, but my end goal is I want to sell it because I want to move to Florida to be with my family. If that is way stronger, that desire to be with family in Florida, it's stronger than the desire to net a certain amount of money, then we have to remember that it may not be the money that they're after. But we have to continue to remind them that what they were really after is being able to move to Florida. So creating that win-win doesn't just have to be about the money. It's not about the net, but it's about the situation as a whole. And we both have to be aware of that. And at some point, as a realtor, I'll tell you that yes, the numbers, all of that stuff, but realtors, we wear the psychologist hat, the person that's there mediating, the person that's there doing so many hats. It's crazy. It's crazy. I've been in situations where where the like, to give you an example, I was at a closing table and we found out that there was a lien for child support on the father's side, that the on the husband's side, that the wife didn't know, that from a previous relationship, right? And it's like, okay, yes, that is an obstacle. That's something that happened. But what is the end goal? The end goal was to sell this house. Let's sell the house. And yes, that was an obstacle, but that's not as important. Let's figure out what the end goal is. So I feel like navigating stuff with the end goal in mind is what allows transactions, or at this point, the transactions, to make it happen.
Yeah. And in that conversation, so you're sitting at the closing table, wife finds out her husband had a kid that she didn't know about. They have child support. How do you show up in that situation to get the transaction done?
So at that point, it's more, you give them the space.
Yeah.
Right? Give them the space to do whatever needed to happen. But again, reminding them what their end goal was, to move to another place, to sell this property, because they needed to use some of that money to help out one of the parents. And again, is reminding them of the end goal. But that only happens if you really ask those things from the beginning. And when and again, this goes more on sales, right? Or like you were saying, like on being able to attract somebody to the company, whatever, you have to know what their end goal is and really take the time to figure that out. Because they might want to sell the property, but because the end goal is to help their parents, you always want to lead them back to that. When you lead them back to that end goal, things are a little bit less on what happens in that situation, but then you make them see, hey, you wanted to do this because you wanted to help your parents. There is still enough here to be able to help your parents. Let's move along with this, and let's make it happen.
So what I hear you saying is, a lot of times in life, you have really had to master your listening skills. Because a lot of people will ask these questions, what is the end goal? Where are you trying to go? They'll get the answer, but they won't retain it because they didn't actually listen. They didn't sit down and spend the time to really care about the relationship. Is this something you've always had naturally, or is this a skill that you've had to develop and grow over time once you recognize the power of listening, hearing, and then being able to kind of re-steer people back towards that end goal through negotiations and conversation?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely an art of listening, but you also have to care. And it starts first by caring more than just the money, let's say, for the transaction. You really have to care more about how you're going to be able to help that family out from that perspective. Once you care, you will be able to really maneuver the situation as needed. But listening is definitely one of those skills. And having the emotional intelligence too. I'm a big believer in emotional intelligence, because you have to know how to control your emotions, especially as a realtor with any real estate transaction we're dealing with clients. And in relationships as a whole, with friends, whatever, business partners, stuff like that, because that emotional intelligence is what's going to, it can actually bring deals down. Like it can, you can lose deals if you don't put yourself in a position where you can control the situation, by just making the clients feel understood. This is something that I heard you talk about in one of our meetings, with FI investors in one of the events. You mentioned that at the end of the day, people want to be loved, seen. That for people to be loved, they want to be seen, heard, and understood, right? And so my goal is to make them feel seen, heard, and understood, and that happens by having the empathy to let them know how I can be, how I can provide and maneuver the situation with their end goal in mind.
How do you not allow empathy to become a weapon that's used against you, though? Because I've recognized in my life there's been many times where I give, and at some point it's taken advantage of. Not always, but there are times when that's taken advantage of. And so how do you show up with empathy, but also with a backbone so that you don't get walked all over on, and you don't, get your commission stolen out from under you and those kinds of things?
Yeah. I feel like, and that has happened to me too, because I like to give more. And
you bought like a refrigerator for somebody one time, right? I mean, wasn't there some transactions?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do whatever it takes. If it's a lesson, we don't see it. We don't call it a failure. We see it as a lesson, or we take a class. But the main thing here is, I would say, standing your ground, knowing your worth, right? But also being able to know, like, when I look back, a lot of the successes that I've been able to get was that for a period of time, and you mentioned this earlier too, for me it was saying yes to a lot of different things, which at that point may have been getting stepped on maybe a few times, or doing more work than what I would have called like my fair share. Maybe I did have to do a little bit more work. But fortunately, as I look back, those things have been rewarded because other people took sight of what I was doing, and then the universe may have rewarded me in other ways. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And it happens. It may not happen while you're in that situation, but it will happen later. And I feel like when you have I would say confidence, but when you have let's just use the word confidence. When you have the confidence that you know that things are going to work out, things will align that way. And yes, again, there might be times where people may have taken advantage of me on different transactions or partnerships, whatever. But I know that when I look back, things always align themselves in different ways as the universe does its thing.
Yeah, Steve Jobs said this at a commencement speech. I believe it was at Stanford. He said, you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. And in those moments where you're doing whatever it takes to solve that transaction or help that person or go speak to Congress, whatever it is, like in those moments, it's hard to connect all of the dots. But when you look backwards, you're like, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I learned that lesson. That's how this has served me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think as entrepreneurs, as visionaries, as business leaders, as husbands, as maybe fathers for you soon, as father for me, part of my goal and my responsibility is to paint the vision and try to connect the dots looking forward too, right? Which I understand is impossible. But when you're referring to this, keeping the end goal in mind, what's resonating with me is, what is Diego's end goal? Like where do you want to end up? What is the end goal for Diego?
Yeah. I feel like for me, and this goes back to the motto from one of my mentors, Adam Carroll, who I know you met. He always had the motto, and I applied it into my life, the build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. So for me, a lot of that is on my version of what a big life is, right? And for me, a big life is being more than the lifestyle. Of course, there's some metrics that I want to get to, and passive income and everything. But I feel like what's important for me is more, my big vision is to be fulfilled, be happy, doing what I love with the people that I love. And being able to travel, and like being able to to have the options to do stuff, I feel like that is what gives me that opportunity to be the best version of myself. And again, as I mentioned earlier, is like having, I would say, experiences over things. I think that by me not being overly materialistic, it allows me to really enjoy the little things. Because if I'm more materialistic or like more like the cars and like, hey, I need to
The
like
suits.
the suits. Hey, there you go. But if more materialistic on different things, I feel like it creates a level of, hey, I see this. I'm on social media. This guy has a nicer car than me, or this guy has a better condo, whatever than me. Then I feel like if I'm comparing myself to others, that's the place that I don't want to get to. I want to make sure that I have my own vision with, as I mentioned earlier, doing what I want with the people that I want, and having the freedom to do that. Now, I also want to make sure that I don't get to the level of me comparing myself to others, because when I do that, and it's so easy to do that on social media when you're like, oh my gosh, they have this, they have that. And, but there's two things to be aware of too. I know some of those people that have all that, they sacrificed a lot of different things to get to that sometimes I may not want to sacrifice those things.
Right.
Other people might, I may not. So I cannot be jealous for the things that they have, because I didn't do the actions. I didn't do the actions that it took them to do that. But I know that when people might look at my life, they may not want to do the actions that I had to go through to get to where I am at. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The other interesting thing is a lot of people that feel a desire to flaunt on social media that I know personally are flaunting things they don't really own. They're flaunting the assets of somebody else. They're flaunting the condo that they're renting, not the one that they own. They're flaunting the lifestyle that they're leasing, not the lifestyle that they own. And so I agree with you. I think it's important not to look to others for what fulfillment or happiness or joy looks like, because wrapped in all of that fulfillment bucket on social media, I believe, is massive insecurity. And when you look at your life, one of the things you said is you want to chase fulfillment. And that's this concept that I love. Like, it sounds so great in theory and in principle, but I cannot for the life of me wrap my mind around what is fulfillment. Like, what is this truly? Like, is it just this cliche bullshit term that people throw out to not have to really justify what they want, what they need, what they desire? For you, how do you define fulfillment?
Yeah. And this is something that's really, really interesting, because what fulfills me may not be the same thing that fulfills other people.
Correct.
And this is why Tony Robbins, for example, calls it the science of achievement, but the art of fulfillment, right? So science of achievement, we know that, hey, like, to give you an example, right? And since, I mean, as let's say that we talk about Gobundance, right? For me to become a millionaire, I joined Gobundance and I got that opportunity when I was 23 years old, when I wasn't a millionaire. And then 6 years later, I was able to do it. Great. I achieved it, and I can show you how, and the art, and and the science behind it, right? I can tell you exactly what I did, how I got there. Now, the difference is in, was it as fulfilling? Did I get that type of thing? Like, the rays of the sun came to me when I became a millionaire, and I was like, hey, now you're fulfilled. You have everything that you need. The answer is no. Like, it wasn't like, that wasn't the answer, right? So understanding that, again, with art, you might look at some stuff, you might look at something and be like, oh my gosh, that is beautiful. And then other people may look at it and be like, oh, I don't even know what that is. That is not beautiful. So understanding that fulfillment, again, it's something that comes by each person. It's something that's unique. And it's always, I feel like having that fulfillment at the end of the day becomes also a choice that happens from gratitude. Because you can be like, there may be times where I'm like super stressed out, And I was like, wow. And this happened in 2021, I think. It happened to me when I was like trying to do all these things and closing all these deals as a realtor. And it was my best year as a realtor. Yes. And then I had a mistake that I did. I was able to fix it, right? But it was the most stressful time ever. I was working with somebody that's very famous, and I made a mistake in buying in the contract when selling her home. You'll probably have her as a guest here if you haven't yet. But that was the most stressful moment, and it was at the time that it was that the I don't want to say the peak of my career, but it was the year that I sold the most houses. And I remember thinking, my gosh, I don't even need the money. Why am I doing this? Right. And I learned from that perspective that because I'm not doing it for the money, there were things that I had to change in my business. And I did. And now I do things in different ways. But that comes from going more for the fulfillment. And that fulfillment is actually much, I would say, easier. It's interesting. I've never thought about it this way, but now that we're talking, I think personally the fulfillment is the act of every day seeing everything that you have and being grateful and being content with what you have.
How do you balance that though? Like when I hear content, I hear no desire to chase more. Like I'm content, I'm good, this is pretty good, I'm fine. So I really respect and appreciate this notion of being grateful for everything I have. But how do you wrestle with this content and desire for more?
Yeah, that is definitely a challenge. And I feel like at that point, it becomes more of, yes, you have content with what you have, but also what is the potential that you have. And at the end of the day, it's also a choice that you have. Do you want to commit to your full potential? Like you're going out and commit for your full potential, or because here's the thing, you can also be stressed out and everything and trying to achieve all those things, or doing things in a smart way where you're trying to fulfill your potential. And I feel your potential, it's more me against me than trying to compete with the next, let's call it as a realtor, right? Me competing with the next team and understanding that, hey, maybe me comparing myself with them, I don't want what they have. I may not want to have the kind of business that they do, whatever, right? But it's more a choice that I have for me, and it is a practice that now that I think about it, you have to be doing it daily.
What's also super ironic, coincidental, interesting is it sounds like when you were achieving the most amount of success, as society defines success, which is generally money, whether that's good or bad, we could debate that. But while you were achieving the most amount of success, you were also, what I hear you saying, the least fulfilled.
Yes, because there were certain things that happened that didn't need to happen. Yes, that is true. That is true. But here's the thing, right? I would say there were times where I was the least fulfilled, where I was the most stressed. Because fulfillment and stress are two different things too. So it was the moment that I was making the most money, but I was also the most stressed. And I was also, because I didn't have the systems in place, I was always on my phone. And I got called out, and that's when I was like, okay, I need to do things different. When I was at a Gobundance event, and Craig Curlop, so there was, in 2020, I did 56 deals as a realtor by myself with one transaction coordinator. That's it. And with 20 homes under contract. That's how 25 homes under contract. That's how I ended the year. But Craig pulled me out at a Gobundance event, and he's like, bro, are you here or are you not here? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I've seen you on your phone the whole time. And I was like, yes, because I have all these deals and this or that. And it wasn't until he called me out, because then at one point we were in the jacuzzi with like a big group, And I was on my phone, even in the jacuzzi, because I was responding to
Yeah.
messages and doing this and doing that. And imagine when you have 56 homes, like all these homes and homes
Yeah.
under contract, there's so many people that can reach out to you and talk to you and asking this, asking that, appraisals, whatever. So at that point, I realized that, hey, I am on my phone. I have so many things going on. I am not present. So I feel like going on fulfillment, a lot of it has to do too with being present. And when you're stressed, when you're worried about all this stress, is something that it's happening. It's more about what the future is. But what happened afterwards, I put some systems in place. After he called me out and I was aware, I was like, yeah, you're right. Then I asked myself a better question, which was not how can I not do more deals, let's say, but how can I do maybe less deals or the same amount of deals, but with other systems in place that can make me not feel as stressed and be present. Because at the end of the day, if we're in a hamster wheel of just making money, 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 but we're not present, then there's really no point in doing life other than getting the top one agent
Yeah.
in your office, right? Um, and then again, you put that you put that trophy there, and then you go back and do it again and again and again.
Yeah, it just collects
things
dust.
things have to change.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't worth it. So after that, I began to do things in a different way. But I got called out, number one, and this is what's so good about Gobundance too, is that you have your buddies that call you out of your pod, and then you have to make the decisions to decide, yes, I got called out, I recognize it. I don't want to live like this for like 10 years because that will suck. What are some things that I need to do in my life to make a change?
And there's probably things you're doing today that you need to make a change around.
Yes.
And so, where in your life are you most flirting with disaster?
I would say doing things that maybe right now at this moment, let's say we're recording this in January, right? January 2025. Doing things that are not lighting me up as much as they used to. So I either have to change my frame around it, or I have to delegate those things to other people, or I have to change my frame around it and delegate things to other people.
What do you think holds you up from doing one of those two things?
Right now? Well, this is something that's recent, so it would have to be having conversations about what the goals are, and being able to do things in a way that I do feel that like, heck yes, let's go. Yeah. So it's just, let's say I would journal about it and decide like, and see where life takes me from that perspective.
Yeah. So what you're saying is essentially like you are chasing awareness around what is a heck yes or a heck no for you right now. Once you have that awareness, you will then go to your trusted peer of advisors, your network, and say, hey, how do I navigate this? How do I work through this? Given that feedback, then you'll go take action.
Exactly. And I feel like being able to have that feedback is always key.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned is that it's okay to have certain changes, right? And then having potentially like tough conversations, but on a way of like always focus. I feel like focusing on growth. It's always like change that gears growth. And that growth doesn't necessarily have to be money. I feel like it can also be, again, tapping more on what fulfills you, that sometimes it's not money driven. And I feel like when you do things that are just for money, you end up doing things that maybe you don't enjoy as much.
Right.
And I don't want to get to that position because I've had enough mentors within Gobundance, or I can make my own choices, that I don't have to do the things that don't fulfill me as much for a long period of time. Because there are times, no matter what your life is, good, bad, you're millionaire, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be stuff that you don't like doing that you have to do. That's life,
That's just life.
right? So, but how can you limit that? Because it's on, if you have the choice to take control of those things, then take control of those things. And that is where I'm at right now. So this whole month and as we go into 2025, those are some things that I'm mostly working on. Yeah.
Well, what I really appreciate and admire most about you is you're always working on you. Like, yeah, you like to work, yeah, you like to have fun, but you're always working on you. You're very open and willing to receive feedback and provide feedback to others. How, when you get that feedback, do you not take it personal? Because a lot of times when we get feedback, the stuff that actually is what we need to hear hurts the worst, and we build up a defense mechanism to respond with aggression, with stories, with anger, with withdrawal, whatever our defense mechanism is.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've always admired about you is you always sit with the feedback and don't really respond, don't really get triggered, don't really get defensive, don't really get argumentative. You go, let me think about that. Like, interesting.
Yeah.
Let me journal on that. Have you had to build that muscle over time? Is that something your mom gave you, your dad gave you? Like, how have you been able to so willingly and capably receive feedback and then apply it?
Yeah. I would say, again, that falls into emotional intelligence, which leads to I listen to understand, not just listen to respond. And man, I guess it goes back to I feel like with my parents, they always taught me they put me in a position that where I needed to learn how to sell too. So I was a waiter, and being a waiter, you get people that scream at you, you get people that complain for things that don't even make sense, right? And because I was also the owner, or like my parents were the owner of the restaurant, it wasn't like I cannot just say, well, F you too.
Yeah,
right?
spit in their food.
Yeah, I had to, hey, this is my restaurant too. And
Right.
we're talking about like me being like 12 years old or
Right.
13 years old and me being able to understand this. And I feel like having that level of listening to understand and not respond allows me to sit on it. And because I'm growth minded, right? And I'm always working on personal development or bettering myself, I have to take that feedback and see how it will help me. And if it doesn't help me, I'll say, hey, thank you so much for the feedback, and then I move on. But I try to be introspective, and I feel like those types of conversations, they make you aware. And then once you have that awareness, it's up to you to decide how you want to act on it. But I'll tell you that it's better for people to call you out and have that level of awareness than saying, oh, yeah, you think of this about me? Oh, F you, right? It's not about that. I try to sit on it and make sure that I respond accordingly.
So people are listening to this. They may be a dreamer. They may be facing hard challenges. They may be looking for motivation. They may want to join ROA. Where do they find Diego Corzo?
Well, they find Diego Corzo. Follow me on Instagram at Real Diego Corzo, or sending me an email to info@diegocorzo.com.
Thank you so much for your time, man.
Awesome,
Appreciate you.